Hey, what's up? I'm Hop, the guy from the channel name. Today we're taking a look at a very weird AR build. This combines two concepts that I've talked about a lot previously. One is the theoretical advantages of just using a direct thread suppressor rather than having to tune your gun to shoot both suppressed and unsuppressed and have to worry about point of impact shift when you add or remove the suppressor. The second thing is the reasoning behind my choice of a Gemtech Trek 2 as the first suppressor that I ever bought. I originally planned to pin and weld this to an 11.5-inch AR and create a one-stamp gun. So I could put a stock on it and not have to SBR it, and therefore not have to file paperwork to travel interstate. These days I have a lot of newer and better suppressors that I would much rather use, except none of them can be pin and welded, so I never got around to making my one-stamp 11.5 build until now. Just kidding, this is still on an SBR lower because I'm not ready to commit to this upper configuration for reasons that we'll get to in the video. Stick around. Yeah, still gassed.
This video is made possible in part by our channel sponsor, Blue Alpha. I've been wearing a Blue Alpha hybrid EDC belt every day for the last almost 6 years now. It's the best EDC gun belt I've ever used, and airport security are always very impressed when I whip it off before going through the scanner. Blue Alpha's EDC belts, battle belts, and duty belts are made in the United States. They're extremely rigid, and I suspect they might be indestructible. After 6 years of daily use, mine shows no signs of wearing out. It's probably going to outlive me at this point. Check out Blue Alpha at the link in the video description for gun belts and other high-quality American-made tactical nylon. Thank you to Blue Alpha for supporting this channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let's get back to the video.
So the idea behind a single stamp gun is that you have a rifle with either an integral suppressor or a suppressor that is permanently attached to the barrel, such that the overall barrel length is still effectively 16 inches. That means it doesn't fall under the NFA definition of an SBR or a pistol. Back in the day, that meant you saved on the expense of a tax stamp and the waiting period of a second tax stamp. That's not as applicable now because inflation has rendered the $200 tax stamp a relatively small slice of the pie when considering the overall cost of the build. Also, the wait periods are substantially reduced. The main appeal is that SBRs are governed by more strict regulations than suppressors. If you want to travel with an SBR interstate, you have to file a form with the ATF and wait for approval. That can involve stuff like saying, hey, this is the address I intend to be staying at with this gun. Pistol braces are still legal at the time of this recording, and as nice as they are, I would still prefer to have a real stock, and I would also rather dodge the ATF's paperwork requirement when I travel interstate, which I do quite regularly for work. There are a lot of theoretical advantages to direct thread suppressors. You reduce the overall length and the package weight of the suppressor on the end of the barrel. Also, if you know you're going to shoot full-time suppressed, you can make some interesting choices when it comes to the barrel. And that's where this whole project kind of comes together. If you know you have to shoot both suppressed and unsuppressed, something you have to manage very carefully is dwell time. That's the period during which the gas system is under pressure, after the bullet has passed the gas port but before it has exited the barrel. If the dwell time is too long, then the action may open up and start moving before the pressure on the system has subsided, and that can result in a lot of extra blowback to your eyeballs. Adding a suppressor to the end of the barrel adds a bunch of dwell time, so a system that is perfectly set up for shooting without a suppressor maybe won't shoot that well with a suppressor on it. So if we know for sure we're going to shoot full-time suppressed, that gives us some interesting options when it comes to selecting a barrel length and gas system length. And that's where we get to the KAK Industry dedicated suppressed barrels. These are 11.5 barrels with mid-length gas systems. Normally, that's not a great idea. If you ever want to shoot unsuppressed, an 11.5 mid-length gas system barrel is going to have a massive, gaping gas port. That's because there's almost no dwell time whatsoever between the gas port and the end of the barrel on an 11.5 mid-barrel. The existence of these barrels might be kind of my fault because I think I suggested them in the comments of a focus strip video, but anyway, it's a real product you can buy now. The standard gas system on an 11.5 barrel is carbine length. The same is also true for 12.5 barrels. KAK Industry makes a 12.5 mid-length, which is a long enough gas system on a short enough barrel that you can kind of call it a dissipator. That's a build I've done before, the KAK 12.5 mid-barrel with a rifle speed gas block. A mid-length gas system on an 11.5 barrel is almost too extreme to even be considered a dissipator. It's hard to get these things to run unsuppressed at all, so KAK said, fuck it, we're just going to do a dedicated suppressed 11.5 mid-length barrel. KAK does not have to blow out the gas port size on these barrels in order to get them to run unsuppressed because they know you're going to be putting a full-time high back pressure suppressor on them. KAK can use a very conservative gas port size on these barrels, and the dwell time that you need to run the system actually comes from the suppressor rather than the barrel.
Seems pretty tame.
Yeah, it's pretty tame. It's a little bit gassy because, I mean, that's a very high back pressure can.
Yeah.
But we've got a suppressor only barrel, H2 buffer, and then a K-Spec BCG, so it probably should be, I mean, about as much as you can do with a traditional high back pressure can. Also, this is a Raptor SD.
There are two versions of this 11.5 suppressor-only barrel from KAK. One of them is actually quite sensible. It is a 4150 nitride barrel with a 1-in-7 twist. Aside from the mid-length gas system and the conservative gas port size, it is a barrel. The other one is the version we have here. This is a heavy profile, fluted stainless barrel with a 1-in-5 twist rate. That is something you don't see every day. 1-in-5 is an extremely fast twist rate for 5.56. 1-in-7 is considered the fast end of the twist rate spectrum for 5.56. Some barrels that are more focused on precision, which tends to imply old guy, which tends to imply varmint hunting, which tends to imply lightweight bullets, still use a 1-in-8 twist. For example, all of Ballistic Advantage's stainless barrels, I think, are still 1-in-8 twist. Wind the clock back 10 to 20 years, and the standard twist rate for a do-everything AR barrel is 1-in-9, because it stabilizes everything reasonably well, according to that famous chart that we've all seen on every website from ARFCOM to 4chan. Go back far enough and you end up with a 1-in-12 twist rate, because apparently you don't have to worry about fleet yaw if the bullet is never truly stable. There are two theoretical advantages to a fast twist rate. One that's coming up a lot lately is the idea of imparting additional rotational energy into the target. This has been coming up a lot lately because 8.6 Blackout uses twist rates as fast as 1-in-3 and is supposedly able to harness this extra rotational energy. 8.6 Blackout may show extremely impressive temporary cavitation in ballistics gel, but for the most part, ballistics gel is very good at showing expansion and penetration of a bullet. We probably shouldn't draw too many conclusions about secondary wounding effects from a clear ballistics gel test. Another more clearly observable effect of a fast twist rate is that the bullet will tumble and frag more quickly upon entering the target. The YouTube channel Rocky Mountain Gun Club did a test side-by-side of a 1-in-7 twist and the 1-in-5 KAK fast twist barrel using 77 grain projectiles, and it does seem to make the 77 grain projectile come apart faster in the target. This isn't always necessarily desirable. You want the bullet to start expanding, fragmenting, and tumbling upon reaching a sufficient depth in the target, not necessarily right away. Maybe the faster twist rate will result in increased terminal effectiveness on certain targets with certain ammunition. Maybe it won't. I guess the real question to ask is, are there any actual downsides to having it?
Movement detected, radar disabled. Oh, how am I supposed to mount this to the front of my Cessna and use it to shoot my homemade AMRAAMs? All right, there we go.
You got a license for that AMRAAM?
You got a license for that AMRAAM? No, but I got a license for the detonator.
The most immediate concern is overstabilization of the bullet, resulting in the projectile exploding as it exits the barrel because it's simply being spun too fast for the integrity of the cartridge. This is not something you normally have to worry about. However, when you're talking about extremely fast twist rates like 1-in-3, which is sometimes required for 8.6 Blackout subsonics, apparently certain bullet constructions cannot handle that amount of rotational energy and they will explode upon exiting the barrel, which is a real problem if there's a suppressor attached to the end of the barrel. Hence why I think for safety, if you're shooting 8.6 Blackout subsonic from a 1-in-3 twist barrel, you either need to be using copper monolithic bullets or, like at the very least, bonded projectiles where you're not going to worry about the jacket separating from the lead. When KAK sent me this barrel to test, I asked them if there were any projectiles that they considered to be a no-go out of the super fast twist rate. And they said probably not, it most likely won't be an issue, but just to be safe, don't shoot frangible ammunition. Fair enough, that is a projectile that is designed to come apart easily for safety reasons. Unfortunately, it probably shouldn't come apart inside my suppressor, especially not if I've opted to pin and weld it to the end of the barrel in order to create my single stamp gun. I've shot a bunch of different ammunition through this barrel with the suppressor attached, obviously because it doesn't work without it. We're talking 55 grain M193 ball, 62 grain M855 green tip, 69 grain Sierra Match King from ADI, and 77 grain AAC OTMs. None of them have keyholed, none of them have exploded my suppressor. Those all seem to work just fine. The other potential concern is accuracy. The reason that infamous twist rate chart gets posted all over the place is because of guys, boomers, let's be honest, worrying that their 1 in 7 twist rate is going to result in horrible accuracy with lightweight 55 grain ammunition. I've never seen that happen. I don't think that's really true. I think that chart is probably almost completely bullshit. But that's where we got to get back into the accuracy discussion. I did group a bunch of different ammunition through this barrel. Sometimes I got good results, sometimes I got bad results, and I tried with multiple configurations of handguard because I thought maybe something was like impinging on that weird mid-length gas block. When I just had it set up with a red dot, I would be getting these like really tight groups just to zero the red dot. I was like, oh hell yeah, bro. And then I would put high magnification glass on it and shoot match grade ammunition, and I would get like dog shit. Trying to get 100 yard groups with the CAC 11.5 suppressor only. These are 1, 2, 3 AAC 77 grain. This one is ADI 69 grain. Cannot get fucking groups out of this thing right now. I wasn't totally sure if the twist rate was causing the ammunition to behave weirdly, or if sometimes I was just shooting really badly, but eventually I did get a couple of pretty decent 10-round groups with 69 grain ADI Sierra Match King and 77 grain AAC OTM. Not knockout groups, but at least good enough to make me think that, yeah, this is not like a busted-ass barrel. I think it's fine. I think sometimes I had some bad days or I was shooting in bad configurations. Normally, I would just write that off as being like a bad sample of the barrel or just me not having the aptitude for group shooting. I don't really have the patience or the interest. But there was a video from Range Day Bro here on YouTube. He also got one of these barrels and he also reported less than stellar accuracy results with it, which is not really what you would expect from a stainless steel, heavy profile, fluted barrel. So ultimately, I guess I would probably not recommend this specific version of the barrel because it is twice as expensive as the 4150 version, which has a normal twist rate, so you're not going to freak out about blowing up your suppressor with weird ammunition. You're not going to worry about bizarre accuracy results with different bullet weights. It's also probably going to last a lot longer than the stainless barrel, and it also weighs substantially less. This is a heavy pig of a barrel. So, I'm still committed to the idea of pinning and welding my Trek 2 to create a single stamp gun, mostly because that's the only way to get some additional value out of my old Gemtech Trek 2. This makes a bit of sense for me because I travel interstate a lot and I already have the Trek 2. Otherwise, this concept has an extremely niche appeal because almost no suppressor is actually suitable for this kind of a build. You've basically got the Trek 2 or the Griffin Armament GP5, because in order for the suppressor to count towards barrel length for purposes of the NFA, it has to be completely sealed from the back all the way up to the front. If you just pinned and welded a suppressor mount to the barrel and you could still take the suppressor off the mount, obviously that wouldn't count. You should probably not pursue a build like this from scratch because there are a lot of better suppressors you can get now for the money. But if for some reason you're really enamored by the idea, you would be better off with the Griffin Armament GP5 than the Gemtech Trek 2. It's a much newer suppressor, should perform about the same, but it weighs a lot less. Another option would be to get an integrally suppressed upper. YHM makes one that's basically a 10.5 barrel with a permanently attached version of their Turbo T3 suppressor. The downside with that is you have to choose between one of their two handguard options and you don't get to use your own barrel. I know a lot of guys with a permanently attached suppressor are really going to want a barrel with a little bit more longevity than a standard 4150 chrome molybdenadium nitride finished barrel. So I'm going to pin and weld my Gemtech Trek 2 to this Expo Arms 11.5 upper build. This has an Expo Arms 11.5 SOCOM profile barrel, which is chrome lined. It's basically just a Roscoe Husky that has been rebranded to be sold by Expo Arms and has their gas port specs. So this upper already starts with a very conservatively sized gas port, and then I've used the YHM suppressor-specific gas block in order to restrict the gas for use with a permanently attached suppressor. That's an extremely cheap way to set up a gun to shoot exclusively suppressed. The YHM suppressor gas blocks cost the same as their normal micro gas blocks. It's like 15 to 20 bucks. This build is not as pleasant to shoot as the CAC 11.5 suppressor-only barrels. The gas has been heavily restricted by the gas block. This also has an H3 buffer and a Springco blue spring in it. The KAK dedicated suppressed barrel does result in a bit of a softer shooting setup, and that's even without stepping up the buffer weight. I guess that's the magic of managing dwell time with that 11.5 mid-length barrel. This build is a little bit punchier to shoot than the KAK. It's not that much gassier though, because at the end of the day, we're still dealing with a high back pressure suppressor. Most of the junk from shooting suppressed comes out the barrel and the ejection port. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you guys very much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you'd like to support the channel, check out the links in the video description. If you join Subscribestar, you get access to early videos, bonus videos, Discord, and I will see you next time.